Hey, this is Type Poker. I'm Paul Seaton, and today we are joined by, like it says on the screen, the champ, Chris Moneymaker, who way back in 2003 won probably the.
Wait, you don't have to include the way back.
It's 22 years, but it's not. I suppose in the terms of poker history, it's not way back. But of all the thousands of World Series of Poker bracelets, I'd say probably the most important, kicking off the Moneymaker effect, which allowed online poker players to qualify for the World Series of Poker main event. Chris did that for $80 and turned it into 2.5 million. Now, all these years later, we're going to talk about his World Series of Poker legacy. Now, most people start, Chris, with you if they talk about the World Series of Poker with that particular hand, the final hand, Sami Farha. But I want to take you a tiny bit back and talk about the actual qualification of it, and whether you had set out to do that, had planned to qualify for the main event, and how you attacked it. Because it was one satellite that you got through on, but obviously there's a kind of a step process to that. And so I just want to know how long it took you to do that.
Well, okay. The first step was a sit and go. It was a two table sit and go. Or I'm sorry, one table sit and go. 1% advance to a $600 buy-in. And then, but the thing is back then in 2003, the online lobbies were not very well laid out. They weren't very clear. So, I liked playing sit and goes, but sit and goes hardly ever went off back then. It was really hard to find a sit and go that was actually going. So whenever you saw one that was like 8 of 9 or 15 of 16, you want to jump in because another one might not go for 2 hours. Well, when I jumped in, I thought it was a cash satellite. Or a cash sit and go. I had no idea it was a satellite to another satellite to the main event of the World Series of Poker. I never would have played. I mean, I think I had like $200 in my account at the time. So me putting $80 into a satellite for a main event was ridiculously stupid. Like I was playing sit and goes. Like an $80 sit and go was half my bankroll online. But I wasn't that broke, but it was hard to get money online. It was a mistake to register the satellite. It was not something I was doing on purpose. Like I actually got into the satellite and I was a little bit frustrated that I found out it was a satellite to the $600 tournament that weekend. And, but as fate would have it, I ended up obviously winning that event and then got into the $630 event, which, I think drew 69 people, if I remember correctly. And they were giving away 3 seats to the, main event, which was going to happen in a couple months. And then also back then, much to my dismay, if you won the seat to the World Series of Poker, you couldn't sell it. Like it was non-transferable. You had to use it or it would go to waste. A lot of seats and events today, you win, you can sell, transfer, whatever. Was not the case back in 2003. Because if it was, I would not have played the main event of the World Series of Poker.
Wow.
I was a pretty raw amateur player back then. I had very little to no live experience. I played some live cash, but never played a live tournament before. My only tournament experience was online. Again, back then poker was amazingly different back then. It's like people wouldn't even recognize it. One, there were no tournaments. Like you couldn't just go play a tournament. Like, right now I could leave here and probably get into a tournament in an hour down at the casino.
Yeah.
Wasn't the case back then. They didn't run tournaments. It was very rare you'd ever see a tournament. There were no limit cash games. It was all limit. I mean, if I went to the casino, I was going to be playing limit. And not only was I going to be playing limit, on the wall they had written, checking and raising is not allowed. You couldn't check raise. It was against the rules. So like when people think of how poker is today, I mean, it literally was the Stone Age of poker back then. And, so anyways, I couldn't sell the seat and 4th place was $8,000 in cash. And, I tried to get 4th place. That was my goal. I wanted to get 4th place. We got down pretty deep and, I started trying to dump some chips to get 4th place. Buddy saw it and called me up and said he'd take half of my action. And, as you can tell, kind of the story, it had to be miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle for me to even get into the main event of the World Series of Poker. Not to mention all the run good I had to have once I entered the event. So it truly was kind of a lottery ticket, because so many things had to just fall in the perfect order. And looking back, it's kind of surreal that they all did.
Yeah, one of them chiefly being that hand with Phil Ivey, which uh, probably my favourite hand of the World Series of Poker back in that era, and I imagine one of yours too. Whether you have Ace Queen, he has nines, and obviously on the flop you flop two queens and a six, which is obviously gin for you, and he hits a nine on the turn, and that's when the chips go in when he's just got a full house above you. You've got 17%, and you take out probably the most dangerous player in the world at that time as a poker player, which is a very surreal moment for you as an amateur at that point, right?
Well, first of all, he was so poker was, again, it was different back then. I only knew three players. I knew Phil Hellmuth, Doyle Brunson, and Johnny Chan. Those are the only three players I knew.
I love it.
When I saw Phil Ivey, I saw a young black kid with chips. He didn't scare me. Like I'm a young kid. So, poker was scary. The old guys, the veterans, the guys that could look into your soul and know what you have. Those were the scary guys. It wasn't the young, guys my age. I mean, we
Yeah.
were all amateurs, whatever. Like we had no clue what we were doing. This is my perception, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny now because, I get to play the seniors event for the first time this year. I'm super excited because the old people suck. All the young players are the good players now. So it was very wild back then that, I didn't know who Phil Ivey was. I had no clue that he was even good. All I saw was a lot of chips. And it's funny, the hand that you mentioned, everybody kind of talks about how my sizings led him into the hand. And, I look back at the hand, I'm like, I think my sizings were actually really good, even for back then. And actually, Jason Lester actually folded tens in the hand. He had position on Ivy and folded tens. But anyways, yeah. So it's kind of wild how it happened because it turns out obviously he was the best player in the world, and the best player at that table, and I just had zero idea at the time.
That's amazing. I love that he went out to a guy who didn't know how good he was, and what a danger he may have been at the final table in a kind of sliding doors moment. If you hadn't got rid of him then, you may not have got rid of him in that sense.
Oh no, I would have gotten rid of him. I was never going to lose that tournament. I mean, it didn't. I mean, after everything that I went through, I was supposed to win that tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things that had to fall in line for me to even get there. Yeah, somehow I was going to win the tournament.
It's hard not to believe in destiny, isn't it? When it all came together like that, and from there, you obviously became a big ambassador for Poker Stars. And at the time, they were sort of hiring all the champions of the world, so they were buying out lots of different champions from different eras and putting together that kind of roster. I now surmise, years later after that, that you're probably the best ambassador that's come along because you give hope to the guy that hasn't got the experience. The kind of Homer Simpsons of their hometown want to aspire to be you. They don't aspire to be Chris Ferguson or Phil Ivey, really. They aspire to be more like you and to come from.
I don't aspire to be Phil Hellmuth. No one aspires to be Phil Hellmuth.
Phil Hellmuth Jr., maybe. I don't
know. No, never. So being an ambassador, it's a weird thing because like I don't feel like, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I know I'm an ambassador, but I don't feel like an ambassador because I really don't do anything special. I'm just myself. Like I don't go out of my way to try to fit the ambassador role. I've always just been myself, and that's kind of been what people want to see. They wanted to see, just I'm a normal guy. I'm just like everybody else. And I think that's what really hit home. That's what created the Moneymaker effect was I'm just a guy you want to go have a beer with or hang out with, whatever. I'm not some super genius, some mad, scientist of poker that, can look into your soul and see what you have. So I think my story made it the best ambassador. I think, best ambassadors are probably Phil Hellmuth and Danny Negreanu. They probably put more time and effort in building poker and over the course of the last 22 years. They'll go and put on YouTube channels and do the live streams and things of that nature. I'm 50 years old now, and I probably it was tough enough to figure out how to put my name on this screen and turn on the computer. So not that bad, but yeah, I'm not over here streaming and putting out a ton of content. I do want to start doing that going forward in 2026. That's kind of my plan, is to try and get more into streaming and playing online poker.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's not been my thing so far.
No, it'd be great to see you do that. I have to say, as a fan, it would be nice to see more mature content, if you like. It's not that the young kids aren't doing great with poker, but we know they're going to be great at poker. I'd love to see how someone who's got a lot of experience like yourself tackles the kind of new age, and that's quite exciting for me. You obviously were made a Hall of Famer back in 2019, which is a real honor in poker. A long time after you won the main event. And after a while after you turn 40, now we kind of find ourselves in a bit of an era where there's a debate about the Hall of Fame and whether they should take one ambassador or two or three maybe to add to the numbers. What's your own feeling as one of the members of the Hall of Fame?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of weird because the Hall of Fame, like I don't know much about it. I mean, I don't know where it is. I guess now they did put it down on the strip. So when I won it, I was like, so I get a steak dinner. That's pretty much the benefit of being in the Hall of Fame. I recognize it's a cool thing. It's just never been that big of like awards and stuff like this. Never really been a big thing for me. But I know for some people it's really important, and some people really look for that. The problem with poker is we have so many people that are coming up now that have succeeded so much that I don't know how you quantify making someone, eligible for the Poker Hall of Fame. I mean, there are so many people out there that people have never heard of that probably are better at poker than people you have heard of.
Yeah.
So, it really just becomes a popularity contest. Who's the hottest person on the tournament circuit, or who's, done, the grinder obviously had an amazing summer and got rewarded by instantaneously being put in the Hall of Fame. I think he was worthy of it. I don't really know how you should set the qualifications to get into the Hall of Fame, because, poker is not only about poker tournaments. It's about the cash games. It's about mixed games. These things aren't as sexy. These things aren't as good. I mean, and the other thing that you look at when you look at the Poker Hall of Fame is it's almost like the North American Poker Hall of Fame. There are so many European players, Asian players that, I've never heard hardly outside of like, a few that get mentioned to be put into the Hall of Fame. It's mostly a North American, USA centric award. So
Yeah, that's true. I'm British, and a lot of people over here
I'm
had a
sorry.
debate for a number for a number of years about Dave Devilfish Elliott not making it into the Hall of Fame for a long time, and obviously his passing kind of led to posthumous induction into the Hall of Fame, which is a great thing. But a lot of European players might have to wait for that to happen until they ever get in, really.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a weird, process. They everybody, I don't even know how they nominate players, but then when they do nominate them, they ask us, as Hall of Fame members to all vote on it. And I've always tried to, look at all the candidates and actually, cause I do know for a lot of people it is very important. So I put some time in trying to, I get 10 votes and I try to allocate my votes based on, who I think should get it and yada, yada, whatever. I'm sure most people do the same thing, but I'm sure a lot of people, kind of vote their friends in, hey, there's a lot
Yeah,
of lobbying going on. I mean, I'll get phone calls from people, hey, can you vote for me? People are they want to get in. So, and I always tell people I'm going to vote with my conscience. I'm going to vote who I think deserves to get in, and, so try to take responsibility in my decisions. But, yeah, I don't know if it's a good system that way or not. That's not for me to say.
no, I suppose not. You can't control that, but you can control your vote, and it sounds like you're putting the most thought you can into that. Let's talk about high rollers for a second, because I noticed the Triton Trophy sitting pride of place on that shelf to your right on
Oh
screen,
yeah,
and it's a pretty amazing victory up there that you
there's a
had.
Moneymaker trophy back there too. But
There is a Moneymaker Tour. I love, by the way, that we will talk about the Moneymaker Tour, and I love how much effort you put into that, because it is giving something back, but also you really turn up. Some ambassadors for tours like that don't necessarily put the time and the effort in that you do. But first, let's talk about Triton, because I just think it's so impressive that you won that high roller. The Triton Tour doesn't necessarily put people like yourself on its front cover, if you know what I mean. It puts a lot of kind of traditional super high roller players, and there's that kind of elite bracket that go around the world playing it, and they are very much in the advertising and they are marketed to be the type of Triton player. You are not necessarily that person, but you very much competed at that level and won a Triton trophy. What was that like as an achievement, and how did you feel about that?
Well, obviously, those guys are, and that whole tour is set up in a way to where, it's really about the super crushers. It is about the elite of the elite. And they market themselves and promote themselves as the elite of the elite. And, playing in that event, they are elite players. Obviously they're very, very good. The thing is that tournament, or how they do their tournaments, they want it to be the elite of the elite, but how the tournaments are set up are not to be the elite of the elite, because they run the tournaments so fast. They're very fast structures, which sets up to where recreational. What it does is it gives the VIPs, the businessmen, a chance against the pros. If they were to make it a WSOP main event that had 2-hour levels, and like those elite guys would just destroy the pros or the recreational players. But being that it's so fast, you win a couple flips, then all of a sudden you find yourself on a final table, and then, you might even win one. I've been really fortunate. I've played 6 of the Triton events, and I've won one. I think a final table 3, and I cashed in 4. So,
strong.
Obviously, I've got a really, really good record there. But also I'm smart enough to know that's not sustainable. That's not something that if I went and extrapolated that over, 10x, 100x more events, I'm not going to win or cash in, 75% of these events. That's just not going to happen. So, I am realistic. I know I ran really good. The event that I won, the trophy that is sitting behind me, I actually was down to 1 big blind on the money bubble. So, theoretically, in reality, the majority of the time, I'm going to be walking out with 0. But as fate had it, I ended up winning that event. And the event that I felt like I had the best chance to win, the 250K, I ended up getting 4th or 5th. I think I had a better chance to win that one. Just, I took a bad beat in that one, where obviously in this one, I got extremely lucky so many times to win it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's at a fantastic field. They do a great job on the tournaments. And, it is set up in a way to where the amateurs can win, which makes it where more people will play. I mean, if you set it up with a super long structure, you wouldn't have that many people playing in those events. So I think they do a really good job, and they know their market. And even though they market it to high level elite pros, you still get a lot of businessmen and recreationals trying to take their shot, and they do have a shot against those elite pros. Case in point, me.
Yeah, and Alejandro Lococo, who of course won the big one last year for 12 million, beating Ben Heath, who's a very long time high roller kind of regular as well. So just bears out what you're saying, really. You mentioned the Moneymaker Tour, which we really need to touch on, because I love the popularity of it. I follow it on Facebook. I've entered a couple of competitions, really just to see what the community is like over the course of the last year. I have to say, not recently, but it's great to see so many people who are recreational players kind of dipping their toe in the water and playing their first tour. You must be really proud of kind of how that's grown. And obviously you've won a trophy from the tour yourself. You really do turn up and put your heart and soul into it. I want to know how that came about and kind of how proud you are of it, I guess, and where you see that going.
So, interesting topics. Okay. One, it came about because I saw a lot of tournament series. They were canceling guarantees. You would see a tournament put on a guarantee for $1 million and they wouldn't come close, and so they would just cancel it, or they would do things that, I've seen things where they'll walk into the poker room and give away 50 seats to people playing cash games just to fill the tournament up. Or they'll, have structures like if you play a $600 buy-in, $500 buy-in, the structures are so fast that it really doesn't give the player the experience. Everybody wants to have the experience of playing like in the main event, where there's super long levels and there's deep and you get to make choices. So I tried to create a tournament, one, that was going to always pay. Whenever we put a guarantee out there, we were going to honor it no matter what. One, and two, we were going to have structures that were player friendly, that, felt like we gave you enough play, but it wasn't so long that, it intruded on, your normal job. Like, you could finish it during the weekend. There were a couple events, so we ended up finishing up on Monday or Tuesday. Even though we didn't want to do that initially, but people wanted the longer play, and the people were willing to take off work. From what we polled, everyone was willing to take off work if you were the final 9 and, got to the
Yeah.
final table. So it was worth it. So yeah, we've done a really good job with the tour. The tour has been fantastic. I've actually won 3 of them now, which is pretty cool. But it's interesting now because we're getting to kind of a crossroads in what I'm doing as a business with that. And I haven't really talked about this much, but the U.S. is coming out with a new tax law.
Yeah.
Starting in January, and basically you're only going to get to deduct 90% of your winnings. I'm sure you're aware of what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so for me, I think it's going to be where I'm not going to be playing a whole lot out on the tournament circuit. If you go and you play, especially like Triton events, and you go and you win money, and say you have a losing year, you can't deduct all the money. I mean, it can be a real big issue. And so I don't know if I'm going to do the tour next year, for the simple fact that I think I'm going to transition and play more online, and just be on ACR, playing online poker, and I'll start streaming and doing stuff more like that instead of going out. And again, I go in cash for $4 million, but I buy in for $4.2 million, and now I got to pay taxes on $400,000. That just doesn't seem right. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I think it's going to hurt a lot of players, Chris. I think it will definitely put a lot of players in that position where they're thinking about what their next direction really is.
it's going to change the industry. Obviously Black Friday was a big transition in our industry. I don't think people realize how big this transition is going to be. I don't think it's going to be an immediate effect. I think people continue the status quo, and I guess we'll see. I've been through an audit, and it's terrible. People will probably go through and try to just not file, not play, not pay what. But it's going to be hard because everything's tracked, everything's reported now. So it's hard to not pay the taxes on the money you won. And I think come next year, if they don't change the tax law, people are going to see, well, wait a minute, I didn't make this money, but I got to pay taxes on it. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing this. So
Yeah.
I think there'll be some people that will get ahead of it and make plans and start doing something else. And then you'll see others that will if it's either changed, then that's great. If it's not, then you'll see reactionary, oh, wow, I got to pay taxes on all these sports bets or all these poker tournaments. And, I didn't really make any money this year, or I broke even, or I made just a little bit and I'm paying a ton of money. It's going to be a real big wake up call. I don't think I know some people really realized how severe this penalty can be. And yeah, so it's going to make it to where, I'm going to play a lot less tournaments, and I doubt I'm playing any Tritons. I'm not going to be going out and doing, a ton of Moneymaker Tour stops. I'll probably play the main event and, maybe 2 or 3 other events all year next year.
Wow, that's a big change for you, isn't it? As someone who's known so much for their kind of social side and their interaction with recreational players and players of your level as well. That's
Yeah, well, I'm going to play cash games. I'll probably start playing some stream cash games. I'll get on here and I'll play, and that's why I want to start streaming, so I have the interaction with people. And I'm not going to go retire. I'm just going to transition. Kind of like we did in Black Friday. You had to transition into doing something else and figure out, your best path forward for you. And I had friends that moved to Mexico, moved to Canada. It's different for everybody. There's going to be a lot of players that play the smaller circuits that probably won't be affected too much. It'll be really interesting to see how the Americans handle the Tritons. The Tritons are the, those big buy-in tournaments, where, you win and lose millions. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. And then also, when you think about like backers, poker backers, how are they going to, how does the tax affect them? Do they have to pay the same as like the players would, and they get taxed the same way? It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But, just for me, on precautionary reasons, I'm probably just going to slow down until they figure out exactly what it is. Again, I've been audited, and it's not fun. And I want to try to avoid, putting myself into a situation to where, it gets it to where, I'm paying a ton of tax on money I didn't earn.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's from someone who knows what it's like as an accountant. I'd imagine for players who don't know what it's like, it could be a bit of a shock to the system and something they don't want to repeat, like you say. I was going to ask you about your legacy to close, obviously with the World Series of Poker main event win. But I think I'll just switch that around a little bit and ask you what you'd like your legacy to be, because whether it's to be someone in the game who appeals to recreational or whether it's more of personal ambition, what would you like people to look back on your career and say?
I think really it's, he did things the right way. He was honest. He, in poker, it's really unique to not have debts and not to have, black marks, I guess, on your name. And, I've been around the game for 25 years and, never had any issues. I want to be remembered as someone that, did things the right way and aspired people to play the game and have fun. I don't want to aspire people to be professional poker players. I want people to enjoy the game. I want people to, take chances and, change their life. Like, for example, the little $100 tournament we had on ACR, just, things like that, where you can win $100,000, with opening up a chest, or turn small bits of money into large sums and life-changing sums. But not out grinding out, playing poker all the time. It's not for everybody by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fun to buy the lottery ticket and to take a chance and bet on yourself.
Which you did, and you have done continuously in your career to great effect, inspiring lots of people. Thank you very much for your time, Chris, on this interview, and obviously look forward to seeing you when you play your next tournament on ACR and, of course, online next year, as well as live stops too.
Yep. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Chris.